Lena Waithe has a new show on BET called Twenties. She joins me now. I'm Riley Chow of Gold Derby. Now, you famously won an Emmy a few years ago, as it says at the top of every profile that has been written about you since. We follow the Emmys all year long at Gold Derby, and so often when people accept, the sentiment is kind of, thanks for the vote of confidence. I'll be back on set in the morning to film the second season. Whereas I feel like for you, it really seemed to make a difference in your career. I'm seeing constant reports about you creating and producing all these new shows. How much of that do you attribute to winning the Emmy versus that being more of a milestone on the path that you're already on?
Yeah, that award, it was because some people say awards don't matter. And I think for me, that one really did, because I was in such a interesting space in my career. I was feeling very powerless on my show, The Shy at the time. And that's not, anything specific. Any new show creator feels that way, I think, because it's your first time. A lot of people aren't listening to you. People think you don't know what you're doing. And it was such this amazing moment. And also the thing with the Emmys is everyone in television is there. So the head of the studio on The Shy, freaking Oprah Winfrey was there. The execs at Showtime, everybody was in that room that I couldn't really kind of get their attention on the show. And they literally had to not only watch me receive an Emmy for my writing, but they had to stand up. There was a standing ovation just because I was the first Black woman to ever not only be nominated in that category, but obviously to win in that category. So it was a major moment where everybody, and a lot of them were white men, had no choice but to stand up and take notice that I do know what I'm doing. I do have a unique voice. People do want to hear what I have to say. And everything changed after that. Literally, I was able to pick a new showrunner for my show that felt more in line with the show. I, was on everybody's lips the next day because the speech really resonated with people. So folks were like, who is this girl? What's going on? What does she want to do next? And I really used it as, leverage and a way to not only amplify my own voice, but to amplify the voices around me and to give people opportunities. And that to me is when an award is doing its job, is when it not only furthers my career, but it enables me to empower those around me to have careers that they've always dreamed about. And so that's what was so exciting about it. And if I ever win another one, I'll do the same thing again. I don't look at it as oh, isn't this a cool, shiny thing to add to my mantle? It's more about this is like a weapon, and I want to use it as such. And I want to use it to break down barriers and doors and, and really help people populate this industry that often are ignored or are invisible. So that's why, to me, this Emmy campaign with Twenties is really important, is because we are a show that's on BET. It's easy for us to be invisible. It's easy for us to be overlooked. And I think the revolution that's happening right now is reminding people that we are tired of sitting in the back of the bus, and particularly in the entertainment industry. We want to be seen, we want to be equal, and BET has never been nominated, has never had a show nominated or in a category at the Emmys, and people can't say anymore that the content isn't worthy of that recognition, because it is. It was worthy of it with the New Edition movie, it's worthy of it now with Twenties, and so the Academy eventually is going to run out of excuses as to why they can't nominate a show for an Emmy just because it's on BET.
Yeah, so this show, Twenties, it's really inspired by your start in the industry in Los Angeles. You mentioned The Shy. That was very much inspired by your experiences growing up in Chicago. And that show is about a group of male characters, whereas Twenties it has a more obvious kind of Lena stand-in with the main character, Patty. So I'm wondering, why was this the right semi-autobiographical show for you to really have yourself as one of the characters?
Well, it's interesting because people often forget that Twenties was written before The Shy. But The Shy just seemed to take off, and it's so interesting because the conversation that's happening right now is that people tend to be more interested in the plight of Black men than they are of Black women. And particularly, I'm a very specific Black woman. I'm a male presenting Black woman who happens to be queer. So I think that the industry, as well as our society, takes a little time to catch up and put focus on those that are really invisible. And so I feel like my community, particularly Black queer women who are who are more just masculine presenting are often very invisible, and people don't often see us. Or if they do think of us, they think that we're aggressive or violent or something. I don't know what they're thinking, but the truth is most of us are very happy and silly and funny and do all the things everybody else does. It's like I think there's this idea that we're hardened in some way. Or angry all the time, and that's just not the case. And so I love that people are coming up to me and saying, wow, I didn't expect this character to be the way she is, or to be as, silly or as funny. And it was important to show that, and also to show my journey, the fact that it took The Chi and Emmy, me being on the cover of Vanity Fair, all these things I had to do just to get 20s on the air, just to get a show about a queer Black woman in the center on the air. And it was a struggle. It was difficult. I don't like that word struggle. It was a journey. It was a journey to get this show on the air, and for it to not only land on the air in the way it did and where it did, and to be as well received as it has been, has really truly been one of the greatest accomplishments of our career. And what I want people to understand is that it should not have taken this long for people to have the show there. But that comes with the territory, and that's why it is so important that we aren't ignored by the Emmys. And but if we are, it will just sort of be more of the same. It actually wouldn't be a surprise if we didn't get any Emmy recognition. But I'm not going to be silent. I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to ask Emmy voters to make history again by nominating a show with a queer Black woman at the center of it, and also a show that airs on BET, which is known for being Black entertainment television.
Yeah, can you tell me about how the show changed from when it was at TBS over to Hulu, and now it's over at BET? I understand that you shot a pilot previously, so I'm wondering if anything was drastically changed.
No, well, we shot a pilot presentation back in 2013 because people
it was just that one. Okay.
Yeah, they couldn't see the vision for it. So Justin Simeon directed that. 3 of my close friends starred in it, and that really picked up some attention. A lot of blogs wrote about it. Funny enough, white blogs wrote about it. They were like, what is this? And also me having the same name as Lena Dunham and her show taking off at that time. So it really was sort of a easy sell. It was like, this is basically not the Black version, obviously, because there's a queer character at the center. So it's not the Black version of Girls, but it was a similar story. It was like this Black Lena had a story to tell, and why was it difficult for me to get my story on the air? But HBO, Judd Apatow, let's go. But it took me a while, and I think that is such a reflection of the industry, and of course, this country. It's always going to take a little bit longer to do the same thing when you're a person of color, and also if you're a queer person, or if you're a Black person, or also if you're a queer Black person. So ultimately, any script that is around for a long time is going to evolve. I mean, there's small differences, there's big differences, but one of the bigger differences over the course of the writing is that the character became more and more like me over the years. Where once I realized, why not? What if she's trying to become a television writer? What if that's her goal? And then of course I literally grew with the show as my career started to grow. I really kind of became more focused and zoned in on what I wanted the character to be. And it can't be that autobiographical, because coming up or being out in the industry now and being Black and being queer and being a woman looks very different now than it did when I first moved out to LA, which was back in 2006, 2007. So it was just a different time than it is now in 2020. So she has a very different experience than I did. But I do try to give Hattie some of my experiences just because it's funny, and I think people can get something out of it. But every script evolves and changes over time. But the pilot we shot at TBS doesn't change. Like BET literally bought that pilot from them when they said they couldn't put the show on the air. BET bought that pilot and greenlit us for 7 more episodes. So yeah, so it's just been a journey of getting the show to where it is now, and I'm grateful that people love it so much.
I watched that 2013 pilot presentation on YouTube, and I was really expecting just to see the same show that we see on BET, just without any budget. But it's actually so different, kind of in every way. One thing I noticed was that at the end of that pilot presentation, then Hattie, it really seems like she feels the weight of all of her circumstances coming down upon her. Whereas in the BET show, the character of Hattie is much more unfazed by pretty much everything that happens to her, I think. Can you talk about that characterization?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big difference probably is the difference between who I was then and who I am now. And I think what I wanted was to write a character. This is why she isn't a little bit. She's Hattie and I have a big difference. Is that Hattie thinks that things should just happen for her. And that was not my take. I was like, I got to work for everything I got. I got to be the best. I got to work 10 times harder. But the truth is, that's also me, I think, trying to be up with the times. I do think a lot of the people, and I'm grateful that I'm a mentor and have a lot of mentees who are in their 20s, a lot of them. And I'm not trying to generalize, but I think a lot of times when people come to me, they're like, I want my own show. I want to have a production company. I want to be a movie star. And the first thing I say to them is like, have you taken a writing class? Have you taken an acting class? Do you know what it means to have your own show? And more often than not, they're like, no, I haven't. I don't know what it means. And so that's why I think sometimes they can be like, I want these things, but don't necessarily know what those things entail. And so a little bit of that is me writing about some of the young people that I talk to and how they do walk through the world with a little bit more confidence than I had and a lot more opportunities than I had. So I definitely want to reflect that, because if Hattie was just like me, she would never leave her apartment. Like, you would just see her in her apartment trying to be a great writer, and every now and then hanging out with her friends. But I had to make sure I added that element for Hattie, who was a girl in her 20s, who is out in the world at 2019, which is a very different industry. That is more, she's post Get Out. She's post Atlanta. She's post Insecure. So that has to be reflected in her behavior, that she's going to be a little bit more lax and go like, well, why isn't Hollywood knocking down my door? And that was never my experience, because Hollywood wasn't knocking down any of our doors. We were still banging on the Hollywood door. So, and so that's a big difference. And that's why I think that you see that difference between the pilot presentation and the pilot that we have now, is that I couldn't be dishonest about how people walk into this industry now when you have so much more control, so much more power than I think I did when I came out. And the same thing with like Dr. Gina Prince Bythewood and Mara Brockett Keel. They had an even tougher time, while they were out trying to get shows on the air, and then the people that before them. The hope is with every generation, it gets easier and easier to the point where hopefully the next wave of people, they should be able to tell their stories and do so without feeling like they have their hands tied.
So you're also going to be on the Emmy ballot this year in the guest actress category for #BlackAF, which Netflix is campaigning you for. Mm-hmm. So you show up at the end of the 5th episode, which is all about whether you should be supporting Black art just because it's Black, which is also a conversation that the characters in 20s have in the 1st episode. So I'm wondering if we could get kind of an update on what your take on that debate is, and also if you could say, how you got involved with that other show.
Yeah, I'm super proud of that episode and proud of Kenya for not being afraid to tackle that subject. I mean, I've said this in the press before. He's braver than I am. I haven't taken that on completely because it is a sensitive subject. And I was really happy with how the episode came together, and I remember being on set filming it and really telling him that, like, this is a brave thing, because this is probably one of the most taboo subjects within Black Hollywood, about what do you do when you go see a movie that was written by Black people, stars Black people, produced by Black people, and you don't like it. Like, what, as a Black person? Because you don't. I think what continues to happen is, I think Black people may discuss that thing in private, but I think I am like my character or like myself in the show, and that I don't necessarily think it serves us to bash each other's work in public. I got to be honest about that. But then I also can understand why that also may hurt us, because until we start telling the truth about how we feel about each other's work, it may not get better. And I think that really is Kenya's ultimate goal. His thing is, I want our work to be amazing. I want us to hold each other accountable. But at the same time, art is subjective. Just if me and another Black person can watch the same Black ass movie and feel very differently about it. Like, that person could love it, I may hate it. Do we need to tweet what our opinions are? I think what I like to do, and anybody that follows me and knows, who I am, I support everything. If something's, at least you may not have to like it, but I do get behind the bandwagon of wanting to support it because the industry works with supply and demand. So if there's no demand for Black content, if we aren't supporting Black content, good or bad, we're going to get less of it. And I want more of it because the more Black content we have, the better our odds are for having good and great Black content. But the truth is, and I love this sort of saying amongst the Black Hollywood industry, is that there are really shitty white movies as well and really shitty white TV shows. But because there's so many of them, white people aren't walking around like, should we not say this isn't good? Should we not say this isn't great? No, because 90% of the content we get is theirs. So if we only getting a little sliver of Black movies and Black TV shows, every now and then, it is difficult to say, well, I didn't like that, or that wasn't great for us. We sometimes want to just be positive and be grateful that things exist, even if that's not the right thing. But I think for me, it's what feels right. I'd rather support Black content than tear it down.
Okay, Lena, well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat. On our YouTube channel, we have chats with other Emmy contenders, and you can go to goldderby.com to make your own Emmy predictions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.